Hey everybody, Sergio with the Rideshare Guy. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. And today I'm joined by Alec. Alec, what city are you driving in?
I am here on the beautiful Monterey Peninsula of California.
Okay, wow, it's a beautiful spot on the planet. And so Alec has a much different story than most of rideshare drivers. But I'm gonna have him introduce himself. You just go ahead and do that.
I'm Alec. I was a taxi driver from about 2012 to 2020 until COVID hit. At that point, I switched over to delivery, doing Doordash and Uber Eats and the like.
Yeah. So how was that taxi experience for you? Well, I
I
mean,
really
you
enjoyed being
started
a taxi
driving when
driver.
Uber showed up. So
Oh, yeah, once Uber showed up, it took about a year and a half for Uber to take hold here. Um, it kind of switched the industry into being more of a daytime job. It ended up being like a 9 to 5. We actually did okay. We weren't terribly hurt like a lot of the bigger cities. We have a lot of non-emergency medical rides and contracts with the county and that sort of thing. We have a lot of seniors here too who weren't in much into the Uber usage. They were, felt safer. They had their cab rides subsidized. We had senior vouchers, that sort of thing.
yeah. How was that experience for you for from 2012? I mean, you did it all the way through. The disruption happened, obviously, as we all know. What kind of I mean, I don't know much about taxi driving, so what kind of deals are you getting in? Are you like, were you a medallion owner? Were you just leasing your car from a taxi fleet?
I
Or
own my cab. It's not a medallion system here, kind of probably too small of an area for medallions. So you can lease a car through the taxi company, one of the taxi companies, or you could own your own car, pay less of a line fee. I did own my own car. It was a Kia Soul. I got to be known as the Soul Cab. That's how my
okay,
moniker started.
okay. So obviously, taxi industry is a regulated industry, right? So
Yes.
I mean, we're going to talk about earnings and all that stuff, safety, obviously, but tell us a little bit about what kind of regulations were you under, and also obviously you're on a meter, right? Taxis run a meter. When you get in, you just flip the meter, and then there is a time and distance component to transportation as we know it.
Correct. Yeah, the regulations were, mostly around safety, which I actually think is a positive, for any industry. Um, we would have to go through a drug test, a fingerprint, FBI fingerprint background check, and then our cars were mechanically inspected and also inspected by the police. So obviously gave the customers a sign of safety and security, which
Yeah.
continues to this day. Actually, there are customers who do prefer to be in a cab for that reason.
Yeah, pretty much complete opposite of Uber and Lyft, right?
Yeah, very much. I fought many battles over at the PUC and actually up at Sacramento, just trying to get someone to listen and be like, hey, the TNC drivers should also fall under the same safety standards, but
Right. When he
didn't
says
get very
PUC,
far.
by the way, that's Public Utilities Commission. So CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission, is in
Correct.
charge of the TNCs. TNCs being transportation network companies, which is Uber and Lyft. But let's go. Let's talk a little bit about the meter. Okay. Let's talk a little bit. I mean, do you recall from 2012 to 2020? It's 8 years. It's a long time. Um, once Uber and Lyft showed up, right? I mean, was your business decimated as far as earnings are concerned, or
No, it wasn't decimated. It was definitely down at first. So I think our cab company, I was with Yellow Cab, had about 100 drivers and probably dropped down to maybe about 70 drivers.
okay,
Some of who did go over to Uber and Lyft, and some just moved on to different industries.
okay,
So again, being a smaller town with a lot of seniors and stuff, we weren't devastated, and actually, it probably dipped by like 2016, but then actually started coming back, and probably I don't know, 80 to 90 drivers from what I understand at this point. I'm still in touch with the taxi manager, owners, and
okay.
manager.
So they're still surviving, I guess.
Yeah, they're doing okay. They're doing, like I said, it's more of a day job now. You have a couple guys who work the night shift, but most of the business is non-emergency medical rides, senior voucher rides. So it's a 9 to 5 gig.
Yeah. So when you first started at 2012 with your own car, obviously you have your own expenses. You have to take care of the car, the gas, insurance, whatever not. But do you recall your meter rates as far
At
as
the time, they were about 250 a mile.
250 a mile?
They're
Yeah.
about $3 a miles now.
Yeah.
And then you actually your insurance was covered through your line fee through the company. It's delivery insurance.
Okay.
So like my line fee, if you own a car, was $300 a week,
Okay.
but that includes your $1 million liability coverage
Okay.
as well.
Okay. So 250 to $3 a mile. And did that move around with inflation or did it stay
I think it
stagnant
started
or
at 225 and then it got up to 250 by the time I left, maybe 275. Now it's up to $3 per mile. It's a $3 drop, $3 per mile, 50 cents per minute.
50 cents per minute each minute?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, that's where the kicker comes in, right? As you know, I mean, you're pretty active on Twitter, and that's where we kind of hooked up. And before upfront fares in Los Angeles, my time and distance rates were 60 cents a mile and 21 cents a minute. What do you say about that?
That's just unacceptable. You can't operate at that. It's that you can't turn a profit.
Yeah. And so when you say profit, I mean, how profitable were you? Were you obviously you did it for 8 years?
Um, I made a living. I didn't make a ton of money, but I made
Yeah.
enough money to pay the bills and take a vacation every year. I probably had to work 5.5 to 6 days a week, anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's quite a different story there, right? From TNCs to cabs. But as we know, cabs have been, I mean, one of the reasons, obviously, Uber and Lyft, took hold of the public is that there is this distaste of cabs, right? As far as the consumer is concerned, some of them are dirty, some of them are people smoking it, they're not safe drivers, this and that. But what do you say about that? I mean, there was a reason that they got disrupted. Plus, obviously, technology helped, right? You push a button, a car shows up, as opposed to, calling an 800 number or whatever. So, how was that with you or in your area as far as cabs are concerned? And today, are there still, can you push a button, order a cab just like Uber and Lyft?
Yes, you can. Some of that was justified back in the day. There were, when there's no competition, obviously it's easy for things to kind of start sliding, and there's nothing there to kind of, the competition to pick it back up.
Yeah,
Um, I think a lot of that's changed now. Maybe that's one of the good things of Uber and Lyft. They've definitely kind of raised the bar for the cabs.
yeah,
They know to keep it clean and everything. And then, obviously with the cabs, there was limited availability.
yeah,
There was limited supply because part of the cab industry is you want to make sure that the cabbies are making a living so you don't, saturate the market like Uber and Lyft does.
yeah.
So that was also a, legitimate complaint too, of course, for people.
Yeah. The other thing is, with those rates that you talked about, right? $3 a mile and 50 cents a minute, every Uber driver would drive for that nonstop, right? Because I mean, it's so much higher than. But the thing is on the back end, the riders are actually paying $3 a mile or more when it surges, definitely more on a lot of trips. But the driver is not receiving any of the goods, right?
Right.
That's the problem that exists. That's why,
Right.
the unhappy driver groups, are out there because, if you're charging $3 and paying the driver 60 cents a mile, which is under the IRS deduction, mileage deduction,
Right. Yeah,
how can you survive, right?
absolutely. This is something we fought for back in the day when things were first going down. We fought really hard to try to get Uber and Lyft to be under local taxi regulators and not the PUC, because the PUC, especially at the time, was terribly corrupt.
Yeah,
Um, and they were basically owned by Uber and Lyft because they were making it was I forget the exact amount, but the first year on the TNC fees, they made like $8 million or something or more. It was
yeah,
a lot of money. It was so much money they actually had to lower the percentage they were taking per fare for Uber and
yeah,
Lyft. It got to be
yeah.
too much. And no one really knows what happened to that money either. We tried to find out, but At the time, we couldn't they wouldn't tell us, of course. So
Yeah,
that still to this day, I still think that may ultimately be the answer is for TNCs to be moved out from under the regulators of the Public Utilities Commission and back to the local taxi regulators where I think they belong, because the local taxi regulators are going to make sure your market's not saturated. You're going to get $3 a mile. But going to have to go through fingerprint background checks and, valid insurance and all that.
yeah,
Um, Ultimately, though, I think it's better for the drivers and the consumer safety.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about safety. Obviously, you said you had to go through a FBI fingerprint background check as well as drug testing, right? I
Yes.
mean, how many Uber and Lyft drivers do you think will pass those?
Um, I think the percentages sounds high. It might be 90%, but 10% failing is a lot of drivers that are out there who shouldn't be driving. That's not safe for them to be
Yeah, it's
in
not
it.
safe for the consumer either. I mean,
That's what I mean. It's not safe for the consumer. Correct.
yeah, yeah. So as far as so why did you quit in 2020? Because of COVID, I guess everybody's at home, no business, right?
Well, the safety aspect of COVID, I don't want to be stuck in a car with someone who's potentially sick and, catch COVID.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, we're done with COVID, obviously. Why did you not come back to cab driving?
I tried. I'm actually presently I'm licensed as a cab driver, and I tried to go back. It just kind of felt like a step backwards for me.
Yeah.
So I've got some stuff in the works. I'm trying to move forward with my own new endeavors.
Okay. Well, obviously you pivoted during the COVID years, couple of years, right? You switched to delivery, and you're
And
still doing deliveries.
yeah,
So it
delivery
must, I
during
mean, it
COVID
must
was
be,
was very profitable. There was a lot of money to be made at the time.
yeah, during COVID years, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
DoorDash. I mean, which platforms are you on, by the way?
DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub. I was on Instacart, so I got the boot from them.
Okay.
But that's also kind of similar to the TNCs. It started very, very profitable and is now obviously gone downhill,
Yeah.
and probably half of what I was making before. And that's not entirely the fault of the companies, because
Yeah.
there is less demand for delivery, but they've also saturated the market. And
Yeah. I mean, you've done this quite a while, obviously, a big switch from being a cabbie driving humans around to, delivering food and packages. Um, I mean, let's look back from 2012 to 2024, right? If we look at take the 10,000-foot view of the industry, right?
Mhm.
Where do you see where do you see this going? I mean, look, we have the largest channel in the country when it comes to gig workers, right? And I
Mhm.
mean, I get 1,500 emails a week. They're all complaining.
Yeah.
Now, if they're all complaining, why do you think they keep doing it? And they're in much larger numbers too. I mean, if you believe Uber, there were 5 million drivers globally last year, year over year. This year, they have 7.5 million drivers. So, right, I asked this to pretty much everyone. I mean, if it's so bad, why do you guys keep doing it?
I think a lot of people stay in it for the flexibility. It kind of fits their narrative and stuff, but I do think that's true. I think the flexibility of working whenever you want and not working when you don't want to work is quite the draw for a lot of people.
Okay,
So I think that's what keeps people um, in it. It's just for me, the question is how do we stop the exploitation of the
yeah.
people? And that's clearly
Well,
what's happening, especially
yeah,
in
let's
TNC.
talk about that. How do you think we could stop the exploitation? How do you think, I mean, first of all, drivers are independent contractors, as you know, right?
Right.
And you were, as a cab driver, you were an independent contractor as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's really difficult to do this, but then I want to hear from you and your experience, since you said you've been to CPUC meetings and you're kind of active when it comes to uh, I wouldn't say lobbying, but when it comes to driver groups, how do you think we can get our voices out there?
You've got to at least organize the loudest people, the people who are willing to go to a PCU meeting and pound the desk and tell them, hey, things aren't fair, they're not safe, we're not making money, the consumers are at risk. You got to organize those people and come in, at least some kind of numbers. Because we would try to organize in the cab industry, and San Francisco did a pretty good job, and Leon down there in LA did a pretty good job, but it's hurting cats at the same time.
Yeah.
Because people want to keep working and they want to take time off to drive up to Sacramento and whatnot. So for me, I think going to the PUC meetings, they do have public speaking time. If you were to get a group of adamant, passionate drivers to go up there and explain to them what's going on, so at least they can't ignore it.
Yeah.
There's something that they kind of sound like pipe dreams, but if you could get a bill written and then get enough signatures to get it into the legislature. I mean, you have all the drivers. If the drivers are asking for signatures, on a petition to support legislation to make life better for the drivers, potentially you could actually get enough signatures that to get something on the ballot.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much reach there is, but if drivers would just say, we're not taking any fares under $7, whatever, $8, and just don't take those fares. No one should be accepting $4 fares under any circumstances. I don't care if it's a tenth of a mile.
Yeah.
You're agreeing to be exploited at that point. And so come up with a number and see if you can get people to say, no, we're not working for less than $8.
Yeah, that's the problem that I see, right? I mean, you said the sentence, herding cats. It's really, really difficult to, get even a couple hundred people together, let alone, I mean, there's estimates are in the US, there's close to 4 million Uber drivers and about 1 million Lyft drivers. Obviously, there could be some overlap in those numbers because most people drive both apps, right? But
Right.
yeah, that's the other thing. And one other thing that we're seeing lately, especially last year or so, is all the illegal accounts. I mean, there is
Yeah.
so many drivers out there who have no clue about money or dollars or profitability. They're just, they're out there with a daily goal, and I want to make $100 today, $200 today. I'm going to take everything until I get there. It could take me 12 hours today, it could take me 8 hours tomorrow, depending on what the algorithm feels like, right?
Right. I mean, you have people sharing accounts and that sort of stuff's going on too. And Uber and Lyft, they know it's happening. They're not dumb. They know how to track all the accounts. And if you see one account's been, driving for 16 hours out of 24,
Yeah. Yeah,
they know what's
yeah,
happening.
I know people who drive 24 hours literally, right? Which is
Mhm.
so unsafe. You can be
Yeah.
12 hours on Uber, 12 hours on Lyft, and I'm going like, I mean, how's that safe? But I forgot to ask you this question. How come you didn't or you never switched to the TNCs from being a cabbie and
Um,
stayed as a cabbie
it,
for 8 years?
it was a bitter, bitter battle. I don't think I could bring myself to it. It was, I was a handful of people who was at virtually every legislative meeting and public meeting and stuff. And I would go protest at Uber and Lyft offices by myself and hold up signs and everything. Um, it was real bitter, and I've contemplated it before, but I can't bring myself to do it. I do work Uber Eats, so I am in that loop, but um, I just can't bring myself to do it. I won't work for those people.
Yeah. How does that, by the way, going? The deliveries, obviously, we can compare it to the pandemic days where your tips were great and everything was great. And how's the earnings going there?
Um, it's okay. It's up and down. It's probably half of what it was during COVID.
Yeah,
I was hoping I could make, 2/3 or 3/4 of what I made through COVID. But it's probably about half. So, I'm looking to get some part-time work here, probably continue doing that and do some part-time work.
yeah. I mean, you can always go back to being a cabbie. I guess this you said you're still licensed, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. You also said you have other things going in life, gig work is not everything in life. What else you got going for yourself?
Well, I bought a van and I've been trying to start up a dog beach bus, taking
Okay.
dogs to the beach.
Okay.
So just starting that up, I've got the proper insurance and everything and put a little advertising out there. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Monterey Bay is famous for the dogs, right? The dogs on the beach.
It's a dog friendly town, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I asked this to pretty much everyone that I interview on Behind the Wheel, right? I mean, but since you never did the TNCs, I'm not going to ask you that. The question is, give me two things you like about Uber and Lyft, and give me two things you dislike about them. But I'll flip that around and ask you in a different way. Um, what do you think is missing in rideshare? What could be done? I mean, I understand, about the protests or strikes, which I don't think they work, honestly, because there's so many drivers that we can't get anybody together
Hmm.
in numbers that could affect Uber and Lyft's business, right?
Hmm.
And the consumer doesn't care. I mean, they're pushing a button, they're getting service, right? They're getting a car or they're getting food or they're getting this. But what could be done? What do you think, is the solution here? Because it seems like other than Uber, because I know now for a fact that the consumer is also complaining because their fares have gone up 60, 70, 80% in the last 4 years, right?
Hmm.
And they're kind of complaining because the car quality is going down, service quality is going down, driver quality is going down. So, but on the driver end, what could be done to make this a fair, I'm not going to say a job because, we're all independent contractors. I guess we can always delete the app. But what could be done?
Like I said, man, you got to have some organization. It doesn't have to be all the drivers. Um, you gotta you gotta pound the table at the PUC meetings. I mean, they're the ones who are ultimately in charge. And if you can't do it there, then you got to go to the legislature, who are the only people who actually have any authority over the PUC.
Yeah.
Can write policy, for them because they won't write the correct policy.
Well, I've been dealing with the PUC last few months, and I don't think much has changed from your days to today.
Yeah, they're not on your side. I would agree with that.
No, they don't. They fall. Everything we do is falls on deaf ears, and it could be because Uber and Lyft lobbying is so powerful, right?
It is, yeah.
I mean, we're
They
dealing with
are.
Goliath here, right? But we have like a couple of minutes remaining. You have the floor. I mean, give us some advice, man. Uh,
Don't take the cheap fares.
okay.
Stop taking fares that are under $8. Just don't take them.
Yeah.
Let them sit. Um,
A-
I
a-
have this dream world where TNC drivers could create their own like shadow app
mhm.
that you could tell people, hey, you really want to ride, you got to download this shadow app as well. But like you said, I don't think enough drivers would actually get on board with doing something like that. So
Yeah. Well, no, but there are a couple of different companies that are coming around, right? One I'm very closely involved with, called Y-Ride. They launched in the Bay Area actually.
okay,
Start of June, we signed about 2,000 drivers already, and nothing to do. It's literally has nothing to do with what Uber and Lyft do. There is no algorithm. It's time and distance. The driver, it's insurance P1, P2, P3. Um, Same commercial insurance, right? Same push the button, car shows up.
great.
Except that the driver keeps 100% of the fare.
Right, it's like a subscription service.
Yep, like a
Yeah,
subscription. What do you think about that? I mean, do you think something
I
like that would work?
I think it's a great idea. I think if you can show the drivers that, hey, this is the way you're going to make a fair living, and if you can offer more safety to the consumer, um, I think it's a great idea. And it's one of those things that even if it didn't work, it's something you could be proud that you did, that you at least tried, because you are trying to improve the lives of everybody.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I always say disruptors will get disrupted one day.
yeah,
Like Uber and Lyft came and disrupted you guys, obviously, to a point. Maybe not in your area as much, but we know the stories about cabs companies getting decimated all over the country, specifically New York City, right?
yeah.
Um,
But real quickly, you asked about apps. The taxi companies, most of them in the bigger cities do have apps. There's Curb up in San Francisco. There's Flywheel, so they do have apps that operate virtually the same.
yeah. Yeah, as far as yes, yeah, I mean push a button and car shows up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if you have anything to add, please, you have the floor.
No, that's what it. Send me some information about this Y app. I'd like to check it out. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I will. I'll send you the information. At the moment they're only in the Bay Area. We're going to do like a soft launch in Los Angeles, and they're TNC licensed, right? They're in California. So
Great.
I think, look, I think if you're just a driver who drives a lot, create your small business. It's your business. You keep whatever you make, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know if you want to come to Monterey.
Oh, absolutely. When I do, I will definitely ring you up. I love that part of the California. So here's Alec from Monterey, California. I want to thank you. I appreciate your time doing this. Hang in there. That's all I can say. But I think, you're correct. You're pivoting constantly, right? You did
Yeah.
cab for 8 years. You couldn't bring yourself to do TNCs. You did deliveries when it was hot. Now you're just kind of pivoting again, buying a van and trying to, transport some puppies to the beach. Yeah, I like what you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. And Sergio, I do want to say just to you individually, thank you for what you're doing. You had unparalleled success in the fight to help drivers and stuff. And your previous success stories are really inspirational, and a lot of people are really thankful for what you're doing, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And, it's my honor, really. It really is trying to help people out, because I don't think this side of that story hasn't been told before, and we're doing our best to get it out there.
Yeah, you bet. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you, Alec. Much appreciated.
You bet. Thank you, man.
Thanks for watching this episode of Behind the Wheel on the Rideshare Guy. We've been doing these interviews for the past 6 months with very successful drivers from different cities around the nation. Click here for another episode. Make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications for other episodes of Behind the Wheel, as well as amazing content on our channel.